Good morning. It is Monday, May 18th at 9. What time is it?
9:02.
9:02. I'm going to call this meeting to order and establish that we have a quorum present. Do we have a quorum?
We do. We have 6 members present online.
Okay. So the first item is the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda may be considered in one vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. By show of hands.
Aye.
All right, and no? Can someone tell me what the vote was?
It was 6-0. 6 in
0.
favor.
All right. Regular agenda, subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Item A, preliminary plat of Block 1, Section 1, San Angelo Gateway Addition. A request for approval of the preliminary plat, Block 1, Section 1, San Angelo Gateway Addition being 31.35 acres located north of FM 380, south of Venture Drive, east of North Loop 306, and west of Gateway Drive.
All right. Good morning, commissioners. We're actually going to do the first two together, the preliminary and the final. So if you could read the second as well.
Okay. Item B, third replat in Block 1, Section 1, San Angelo Gateway Addition. Request for approval of a third replat in Block 1, Section 1, San Angelo Gateway Addition being 3.945 acres located southwest of the intersection of Venture Drive and Gateway Drive.
Thank you. Ray, I am not able to share my screen. It says the host has disabled it. Sorry, bear with me for 1 second.
Okay, try now.
Okay, is everyone seeing my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. So this is the San Angelo Gateway Addition. We're actually doing a preliminary and a final plat for this. So the preliminary plat is approximately 31.35 acres. The final plat is a little under 4 acres. We are north of FM 380, which is over by the Pulliam area, south of Venture, east of the North Loop, and west of Gateway Drive. So there are 2 existing businesses out here in this area. There is the FedEx building and the heavy equipment operator. The zoning is ML, light manufacturing, the future land use of industrial in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's district in the Paula Inn neighborhood. So this is the proposed preliminary plat. You can see there's 6 lots here. They will all be for industrial uses. This is the industrial park. The final plat will be of this northern, I guess, northeastern lot here. So the streets and utility mains were all installed as part of the original subdivision. The proposed final plat, again, is just under 4 acres at the corner of Venture and Gateway Drive. The ML zoning is consistent with the industrial future land use, and this is a continuation of the existing development in this area. This will provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city, and the streets will ensure safe and convenient functional system for vehicular and pedestrian circulation. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat of the San Angelo Gateway Addition, Block 1, Section 1, and approval of the third replat and the San Angelo Gateway Addition, Block 1, Section 1, subject to 3 conditions of approval. 1 is a copy of the tax certification. 2, install the water and sewer service lines for each lot on the final plat, and submit the drainage study and construct improvements as needed. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Any questions for the staff? All right. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Russell, would you like to speak on this item?
Can you?
We cannot hear you, sir.
He has made a comment saying no comment.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, staff. We're great. We have sent a request to engineering to defer the water and sewer and drainage study until a later time. Want to get confirmation from engineering at some point for the approval of that request.
Okay. Lance is on this call. We'll see if he can come in and let us know about those two.
Sure, engineering will support that. These are really large lots and the configuration isn't already dialed in, so we're okay with that.
Okay, so they will actually defer number 2 and number 3, I believe, the drainage study and the water sewer service lines until the time of development.
Okay. Anyone else have public comment? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Any commissioners have thoughts or comments or wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye by show of hands. Opposed?
The motion passes 6-0.
6-0. Do we need separate motions for the replat?
I don't believe so. Brandon, do you need a separate motion for each one?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Next case. Item C, preliminary plat, Riverwood West. You want me to read D as well?
Please.
Okay, so C is a request for approval of a preliminary plat of Riverwood West, being 74.08 acres of land generally located north of the intersection of Paint Rock Road and Rocky Point Trail. D, Riverwood West, Section 3. Request for approval of a final plat of Riverwood West, Section 3, being 1.512 acres of land generally located approximately 650 feet north, the intersection of Paint Rock Road and Rocky Point Trail. Looks like Ms. Pascal's going to do this one.
Yes. Good morning. Shelley
Good morning.
Pascal, planner. There it goes. This is both a prelim and a final plat. The proposed final plat is lot 6, block 1, and it's right at half an acre. And then the second is lot 5, block 2, and it's a little over an acre. As you stated, is at the north of the intersection of Rocky Point Trail and Paint Rock Road. It's within the ETJ. The future land use is neighborhood, and it is in the ETJ. This is the prelim plat. It is a total of 82 proposed residential lots. Excuse me. This is a revision of the original prelim plat. There is a proposed collector extending along Rocky Point Trail all the way to the Loop 306. I'm gonna go back to that. The two new lots on the final plat are in this area right here. This is the final plat, which is just 2 new residential lots. Hold on, let me figure out how to move this. There was an initial preliminary plat approved from the Planning Commission in 2009, and this is just a little bit of a different one, and this will override the one that was approved in 2009. The subject property is designated as neighborhood, which is in fitting with what they're proposing to do on the final plat. City staff, we are recommending approval of the preliminary plat for Riverwood West. And we just have 2 notes on the prelim plat. One note being that the final plat can't be approved until this prelim is platted or is approved. And future final platting will have additional infrastructure requirements. And city staff were also recommending approval of the final plat subject to 3 conditions. We need a tax cert. We need they need to provide a site plan showing existing structures and existing septic systems, and also revise the plat for the right-of-way of Tyler, or enter into a developer's agreement for the deferred dedication of said right-of-way for Tyler. And that concludes staff's presentations. Any questions?
I have a couple. Could you go back to the overview? Do you have okay. Do you have this preliminary plat delineated on a larger map?
I do not. Just to place you, this is Paint Rock Road here. You can see my mouse. And this is the Rocky Point Trail.
Yes.
And existing, there's 4 to 5 houses on either side of Rocky Point Trail. And all of this is got a 1 to 2 homes on it back here in this area. And this will be Loop 306.
Okay. What size are these lots?
They vary from, and the applicant can tell you more specifically, but they do vary from 1/2 acre to 1 acre.
Okay. And is the plan to do septic on all of these lots?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
And with that note, there is Blake but I'm not sure he can hear or speak at the moment. He's having some audio trouble.
Can he tap into the chat line if he does have
Shelley,
comments?
do you know Blake's phone number?
I do.
Can you message it to Ray, please?
I just sent it to you, Ray.
Travis, since we have a pause, I'd like to share my screen. It'll be the aerial of this area, so it gives you a little bit better idea of the area you're looking at.
Okay.
If it'll let me. So it's a very large parcel here. This is the existing homes in this area. So it's a very large piece. This is the loop. If I zoom out a little bit, you'll be able to see the Concho River and Paint Rock Road. So we are outside the city limits, kind of right on that corner of what would be Paint Rock and the loop.
So what's the northern boundary of this tract?
The river.
Okay.
So the river, the loop, and this road, there are some parcels here that are privately owned, but it's this kind of large parcel. You can see this existing home here, but kind of this large parcel in here.
So most of the development that's occurred has been in the southeast section of this tract. Is that right?
That is correct. Southwest. I'm sorry.
I mean southwest, excuse me.
Yep.
And this is a revision to the preliminary plat that had already been recorded?
Correct.
Uh,
It's very similar to the original one approved in 2009. There's just a few minor modifications to it.
okay. More lots?
No,
Same number of lots?
yeah, just a different kind of lineup of property lines. It looks like Blake is on.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning.
Right. Yeah, we just request approval as presented. We would like to be able to enter into an agreement to defer the dedication of that right away.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the agent for the property? All right. Blake, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right. I'm going to close public comment. I guess a discussion amongst us. The only thing I'm concerned about is the lot sizes for septic, and I know we've had this conversation on a track that was over near Bentwood and Butler Farms. Can the city staff tell us what the minimum lot size is for septic in the?
And I think engineering can probably chime in as well. So these requirements are actually set by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So TCEQ is the one that sets these standards for lots that have access to a public water system. The requirement is a ½ acre to have septic. If they do not have access to a public water system and they are on a well, then they have to have an acre.
Okay.
We'll have access, I believe, maybe to Concho Rural or something like that. So this will have water access that would let them have ½ acre lots.
Yeah, they have Miller's View.
Oh, Miller's View. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the TCEQ says that this is okay. I don't. So I guess I understand now. If you have a public water source, you're not drawing off of a well that's proximal to where the septic system might be. And so they've allowed for much smaller lot sizes accordingly. If the TCEQ says it's okay, then I guess it's okay with me. It seems like a small lot for a septic, but if it's what we're approving, then I'm okay with it. How's everyone else feel?
I think it's fine. I was going to make a motion if you're ready for that.
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept both of these as presented with the deferring the dedication of the right-of-way.
Okay. To what point do we defer it?
Blake?
We will actually work with the applicant if that's okay with the commission. What we were
Okay.
looking at is the lot currently that he's showing on the final plat, the rear part of the lot would have access onto Tyler Court. And Mitchell and Lance can probably chime in on this as well. We didn't see a need in having this random 50-foot piece of right-of-way just hanging out behind a lot that doesn't have access to any other street. So I think the deferral agreement, when we work with the applicant, would say something about the right-of-way would be dedicated once a connecting piece or a portion of Tyler Court is, so it would basically be dependent on the rest of Tyler Court developing. So it's not something that would hang on a certain date or a certain time frame. It would probably be more, and Lance, I don't know if you have any ideas, but it would probably be more dependent on when the rest of the street develops.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking in engineering is we'd have a developer's agreement that when that connectivity is there, then they would be responsible for the right-of-way construction at that time to make that connection. But it would be deferred until that point.
Thank you.
Is the developer's agreement something that's typically recorded, or is it just an agreement that you guys keep on file with the city offices?
We have actually started doing recordings of all of those, and Brandon can probably speak to that. But we have actually been requiring that those be recorded along with the rest of the documentation, so it stays with the property.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
going to say the ordinance requires that it be recorded. So.
Okay, good. That's perfect. Okay, so we have a motion to approve with the deferral of the right-of-way improvements. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented with the deferral for the right-of-way. All in favor, say aye by show of hands. Opposed?
That was 6-0.
6-0. All right. SC Vasquez Edition. A request for a final plat of the SC Vasquez Edition being 2.883 acres generally located at 325 West 34th Street. Two variances from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to maintain an existing paving width of 36 feet for West 34th Street, an urban local street, and to maintain an existing paving width of 40 feet for Grape Creek Road and urban collector street.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. Give me just one moment to share my screen. There. As you indicated, this is the SC Vasquez edition. It is a final plat. It's generally located at 325 West 34th, and that's just west of the intersection of 14th and Grape Creek Road. The zoning there is RS1. The future land use is neighborhood. It's in District 2, Mr. Thompson's district, and it's the Riverside neighborhood. The total area is 2.88 acres. What they are proposing is to create a small lot out of the larger configuration and then to plat all of this into track 1, and this would be track 2. And this is for a family member to build a home on. They are requesting variances both from 34th Street and the 40-foot that has frontage onto Grape Creek Road. The reason that they're requesting that is that both 34th and Grape Creek are built out, and there is curb and gutter, and they don't believe that at this point for just these 2 acres or these 2 tracks that they need to disturb the already existing road, which is functioning well. There is sewer and water that is in West 34th Street, and so that is available for their use. It conforms with the comprehensive plan and the intent and purpose statements for development, consistent development within the city and guiding future use. As I indicated, the variances are to allow the street to remain in its existing functional state, and that's not having any deterrence to the existing safety and health and welfare of the adjoining properties in the area. And the situation in this case is unique to this piece of property to have both of those frontages with curb and gutter. This is a picture of the existing home that is on the property, and then the other tract, or the tract where the family member will build a home, is off to the east, kind of northeast of that existing home. And then, as you can see, most of the property in the back and what goes over to over to Great Creek Road does have a lot of trees on it, and it's not going to be developed. Staff is recommending approval of the SC Vasquez addition and approval of the 2 variance requests, and it would be subject to 4 conditions. And those conditions are copy of the tax certification, installing the necessary water and wastewater service lines to the new lot, prior to plat recordation, prepare and submit plans for the required West 34th Street if the variances are not approved, and the same thing, prepare and submit plans for the required improvements to Great Creek Road if the variances are not approved. Are there any questions?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I'm assuming that the other stretches of 34th Street and Great Creek Road proximal to this site have the same road widths of
Yes.
what's existing on the site's boundaries.
Yes, they do.
Is the right-of-way, what's the right-of-way dedication on these roads?
On 34th Street, what is required is 50 foot of right-of-way, and there is 50 foot of right-of-way.
Okay.
Actually, there's 60, but, and then on Great Creek, it's 90 foot of right-of-way, and there is 90 feet, I believe.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case? Please join us.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Erica Carter with Carter Fentress Engineering, and I just asked that the commissioners approve as the staff presented.
Okay. Good morning, Erica. Thank you.
Good morning, guys.
So you want to have questions for Erica? All right. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the city staff. All in favor, say aye by show of hands. Opposed?
I have one
All right.
clarification. Ryan, was that an opposition or a for vote? I think his internet's kind of slow, so bear with us.
Okay.
Ryan, can you hear me? Was that a for vote? Okay, so it is 6-0.
Okay. 6-0. All right, next item, West 23rd Street addition. Request for approval of a final plat of West 23rd Street addition, being 1.372 acres located at the northeast corner of North Bryant Boulevard and West 23rd Street, and a variance from Chapter 103A2 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 30 feet for West 23rd Street, an urban local street. Looks like Mr. Fisher.
All right, good morning, Planning Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Our next case is a final plat on called the West 23rd Street Addition. As you can see here, it's at the corner of Bryant and 23rd. There's two addresses. The property right at the corner is going to be Lot 1, 2302A, and then the property to the east is 2302B. The zoning is CGCH and ML. This little piece on the east half of the second property is ML. Future Land Use Neighborhood Center, District 4, Lucy Gonzalez, Blackshear neighborhood. So this is the plat here. The original survey tracks that were done had divided the plat in a different way. So now that the owners or the applicant has come in and platting a new configuration like this into two lots, that triggered the need for a plat. It'll also separate Lot 2. As I understand, the applicant is going to buy Lot 1 and put in a new retail use here, and then Lot 2 would remain under the current ownership. The total acreage is 1.372. There's also a variance requested to maintain a 30-foot paving width along West 23rd Street. It's a local road and it needs 40 feet or it needs 36 feet with a 4-foot sidewalk. Staff believes that the subdivision plat will conform with the comprehensive plan. The future commercial uses are consistent with neighborhood center. That's a commercial designation, which promotes a mix of uses at key intersections. Staff recommends sidewalks along Bryant and along 23rd Street, and then we will be supporting the variance on the road width. We believe with the sidewalk, similar to the previous case, there's already curbs and the road is sufficient as is. Also conforms with the intent of purpose statements. The new sidewalks will promote public safety. There'll be an installation of water sewer lines, or pardon me, there's already water sewer lines there. So it'll allow for an extension of utilities. And the platted lots are consistent with the existing development pattern. We also support the variance for the following reasons. The existing street functions adequately at 30 feet with the additional sidewalk. That's really only going to leave an extra 3 feet. So it's one on both sides of the road. It's one lane, so the extra 3 feet wouldn't really give them enough room to build a second lane. And at this point, we don't believe that's necessary. So we are in support of the variance on the street, provided they install the sidewalks. The properties have already been developed. The existing street functions, as mentioned, there'd be a hardship. They'd have to rip up the curbs and add new paving just for an additional 3 feet once the sidewalk's gone in. And finally, the lots comply with the minimum standards in the zoning ordinance. So this is looking at Lot 1. I believe it used to be a KFC here. And then Lot 2 is a carpet store. So developer and Ms. Carter's here, I think, to answer on their behalf. But I believe there was a plan at one time to do some sort of oil change facility. So that was the proposal at that time. Here's some more reasons for the sidewalk. Just briefly, there is an existing crosswalk and a sidewalk on this side of Bryant. And there's also sidewalk ramps here. So it just makes sense to continue the sidewalk this way and that way. Staff recommends approval of a final plat of West 23rd Street Addition, approval of a variance to maintain 30 feet of paving width for West 23rd, an urban local street, and the requirement for sidewalks for public safety adjacent to North Bryan and West 23rd, subject to 8 conditions of approval. I'll just briefly read the summary. Provide a tax certificate, install sidewalks adjacent to Bryan and West 23rd, submit plans to install sewer main and connections, submit plans to install water main and connections, revise plat dedicated private service line easement on Lot 1, submit a drainage study and construct improvements as needed, prepare and submit plans for required improvements to West 23rd Street or financial guarantee or variance, and illustrate on the plat the existing variable width utility easement. And that was shown on GIS. There's a little triangle at the corner of the properties at 23rd and Bryant. So it's really just labeling an existing easement that's already there. That concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Anyone have questions for Mr. Fisher? Jeff, I guess I've got a couple.
Okay.
Is there, is the applicant, they're asking for a variance on the right-of-way or the roadway width. Are they also requesting a variance on the sidewalk?
They are not, and the reason for that is that there's two ways to get a sidewalk. One is it's a numeric standard, so it's basically the street is deficient, and they can choose to put one in. In this case, we're asking for a Chapter 9 sidewalk for public safety. So it's not based on the width of the street per se. It's more just that we believe that one is there. So we're making the request for the sidewalk. And so after they've submitted the application,
Have they
so
accepted
they
that
can
request?
choose to agree or not agree to put in the sidewalk though, and you can essentially make the vote not to include the sidewalk or to include the sidewalks.
Okay. But the applicant has not agreed to the sidewalk at this point?
Correct.
Okay. Is there sidewalk east of Bryant Boulevard on 23rd Street?
There is not. Let me quickly open up a map here for you, and I'm going to share my screen again.
While you're doing that, I've got some more questions. It looked like all of that lot had asphalt paving.
Yes.
Can that asphalt paving be used for a sidewalk, or is there a requirement for concrete?
I'm going to defer that to engineering. I think that it's possible, but that would really be up to them. I believe the answer may be no, because it doesn't meet our street standards. So that would be our current sidewalk standards, but it would be something to consider. So this is just an example here. So the sidewalk would go along this part of 23rd and Bryant. There is a sidewalk on this commercial development down here. And I know that one of the reasons for this is that TxDOT plans to, or is, recommending sidewalks along a lot of these stretches of roads. We just don't know when that's going to happen. As we go further up towards Walmart on 29th Street, Walgreens said some of the newer developments like Walgreens have a sidewalk here and here. So long term, eventually there's definitely going to be sidewalks along Bryant, and we believe that having that sidewalk along 23rd will allow this future commercial development here and any other development as it goes to expand to continue along. And we believe that those sidewalk ramps were put in there for that reason. So.
Well, and I think one of the other main points you can look at in this section is if you were to look at the map Jeff just put up there, I'm going to say not even a couple of blocks west of this intersection of Bryant is an elementary school. So my assumption is that kids from this whole area go to that elementary school. There is an existing crosswalk on Bryant, which would allow the kids that are east of Bryant to, if they chose to, you can see down at this kind of bottom right or left-hand corner of your screen, the elementary as it sits today. So this would allow people from the neighborhood east of Bryant to be able to utilize this sidewalk and cross over to the elementary school if they saw the need.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff?
If you guys will allow me, I will also remind you that MLK, which is really just a block off, has sidewalk throughout it. And then we also have two fairly large lots in between MLK and North Bryant that if they develop could have connectivity into those sidewalks along MLK. And I'm actually looking at the TxDOT sidewalk plan for the city. And TxDOT is proposing sidewalks to be installed on all of that section of Bryant on both sides in the next 2 years. And so they are actively moving ahead with sidewalks along all of North Bryant in the next 2 years.
So what does that mean for this landowner, Lance?
Well, what TxDOT has asked us to do, as with the city, is that anywhere that there would be a requirement for sidewalks, that we allow those sidewalks to be put in. and then that will allow them to shift those funds to other areas and extend sidewalks further with the funds that they have.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lance. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Jeff, if you could stop sharing, that would be helpful. All right, thank you. Erica, can you hear us? Would you like to make public comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Hello. Okay. I had a couple of things. One, we want to request a deferral of the drainage study to the building permit phase. And two, I just wanted to know, and maybe Lance can answer this, isn't TxDOT leaving the asphalt in areas that's there to be used as public access?
Sure. I actually believe TxDOT is replacing all of the asphalt with actual concrete. Now, the city has allowed in certain circumstances to utilize the asphalt depending on the condition of that asphalt. But that asphalt has to actually meet all of the ADA requirements, which means it can't have any gaps or raises in it that are above ½ an inch. It has to meet all of the proper slopes and things like that. So in certain circumstances, when the asphalt condition was fairly well, the city has allowed that to be utilized as that sidewalk area, but it does have to be marked in some way or form to see to it that it's reserved for the sidewalk, and it has to be able to meet those conditions.
Okay, is there a process or a way we could defer the sidewalk and maybe you and I can meet out there and look at it? I don't think the owners are necessarily against sidewalks, but if we could utilize the existing asphalt, if it does meet your standards, then surely they would appreciate that.
Sure. Engineering would be willing to meet out there, and we can have that sidewalk installed as a part of the permitting portions of that. That's not unusual for it to be deferred until the permit time anyway, and we can evaluate that asphalt and the condition of it as it's being moved ahead.
Yes, that would be perfect. We can meet out there and look at it, and certainly they'll put in the concrete if necessary, but it'd be nice if they didn't have to, of course.
Okay. Erica, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else have questions for Erica? All right. Anyone else have public comment on this case? All right, I'm going to close the public comment and go to the commissioners. Anyone wish to make a motion or share thoughts on this case?
I'm excited that something is planning going in there. So that's a really good deal. I would like to approve this, deferring the drainage study to the building and permit stage, and then also deferring the sidewalks at this point to discuss with engineering and or have them also come in at the building and permit stage.
And the variance, Terry, would you like to approve the variance? Or?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
The road width. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion. Anyone want to make a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as the staff's presented and defer the drainage study and the sidewalk requirement to the permitting stage. All in favor say aye. Or show your hand. Any opposed?
So it's 6-0.
6-0. All right. Related comprehensive plan amendments and rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of comprehensive plan amendments and rezonings. Steinbach, Cosa, CP 20-03, West Beauregard Avenue, South Pierce Street area, request for approval of an amendment to the City of San Angelo comprehensive plan, changing certain lands from the neighborhood future land use to the neighborhood center future land use, being 1.859 acres located west of Pierce Street between Sherwood Way and Colorado Avenue.
All right, good morning again, Planning Commissioners. This is our next case, CP 2003, Z2007. I'm going to present this as one item as some of the properties relate to each other. The zoning and the comp plan originally was this property here, so the zoning is only this corner, but as part of our review, staff looked at some of the other incompatibilities in the area between the zoning and the future land use. And so in order to support more commercial development in areas that are predominantly already commercial, we're bringing in these extra 8 lots here. So the comp plan will be for everything you see in the red, and then the zoning will just be for this piece. So we'll do it as one presentation.
Okay, Jeff, if we're doing it as one, why don't I read the other case here?
Yes, sir.
Z20-07 West Beauregard Avenue, 2300 block. Request for approval of rezoning from single-family residential zoning district to neighborhood commercial zoning district, being 0.413 acres, located at the southwest corner of West Beauregard Avenue and South Pierce Street. Okay.
All right. So the zoning, as mentioned, that corner property is 0.413 acres, and it's one property that would change the zoning from RS1 residential to CN neighborhood commercial, and the comp plan for all of the properties, 1.859 acres. That's 8 properties from neighborhood to neighborhood center, District 5, Lane Carter, Santa Rita neighborhood. So the future land use right now is neighborhood, and the zoning is RS1. So the applicants have a quilt store, and I believe it's in this plaza up here, kitty corner, and they wanted to, they're interested in purchasing this corner lot. And they want to have their own property for the store. So their long-term plan at this point anyway is to have the quilt store, to build a building over here with this old parking lot, keep some of the parking, have the main floor of this new building to be used for the quilt store with an upstairs residential unit that they would live in. This is the plan. That could change, but that the residential component, if the zoning and comp plan were approved by you all in City Council, would still require conditional use to come back for the household living part. So that's where we're at. This is west on Beauregard, and this is east on Beauregard. So here's the existing site that triggered all this. This has been a parking lot for over 50 years in the city. It's been leased, I guess, by various individuals, but it was never actually zoned commercial. So now that they want to do the retail store, they need the rezoning. So we looked at some of the other properties as well in the area that, you know, and that whole, some of those properties west of Pierce in the comprehensive plan, the comp plan shows neighborhood, but we know that the zoning as well as the uses are really commercial. So this is really just a cleanup on the rest of the properties, as you can see. So it's going to include the barbecue smokehouse, existing commercial use. This is the only property of the 8 remaining properties that actually isn't zoned commercial already. However, there's an old special permit. This home, that's a home right now, used to be an architect office. So this would allow them to rezone that in the future for commercial use, or they can keep it as residential. That would be fine. This is another property on Harris Avenue that's a counseling office. Another property on the other side of Harris, that's the pet boutique. And then this is the Texas Bank, I believe it's a storage facility that they use on West Harris Avenue. So staff received one letter over the weekend in favor from number 18 over here for the comp plan, none opposed. And of the 50 notices that went out for the zoning, none in favor, none opposed. So staff's in support of both requests. We believe it's compatible with the comprehensive plan. The neighborhood center designation recognizes the existing commercial uses and zoning. It's consistent with the zoning ordinances. The lots will comply with the CN standards. It's compatible with the surrounding area. You've got a more intense commercial corridor to the east of Pierce. And so some of those commercial uses west of Pierce. So we believe it's a good transition as well. As you go further west, it's all residential. So this will just recognize what you see out there now. The parking lot, as mentioned, has been there for 50 years. We don't anticipate any effects on the environment. They come in for a building permit. We can look at grading and drainage. Is there a community need? We do. We believe that this would serve the community, would allow the future owner of the property to have their own property for this and a future residential dwelling upstairs. No anticipated changes to access. Access would remain from Pierce. That's what staff would probably want. It would be safer than turning from Beauregard. Staff recommends approval of the comp plan amendment from neighborhood to neighborhood center and approval of the rezoning from RS1 to CN. This concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Jeff, I have a couple of questions. Can you go back to the overview map? Can you show us what the current zoning is for these tracts that are proposed to be rezoned?
Sure. Actually, let me, if it's okay, just to take another minute. It would probably be easier because I don't think. Actually, hang on. I can do this because I remembered. This area here. So across the street, the barbecue, I believe, is CG/CH. This is CN. Or sorry, this is the only one that's RS1. This was the special use for an architect's office
joint.
Yeah. So the barbecue joint is CN. This is RS1, and then north of that, the parking lot is CG, and north of that, the Texas Bank properties are also CG. So everything's either CG or CN. The only one that's residential, like I said, is this one home over here. And the only reason we wanted to bring it in, we had no objections or received any letters back, is just because it's so close to the barbecue place.
Yes.
And it did have a special permit years ago for commercial use. So this would just allow them to rezone that property and to CN in the future and bring that back.
Have you spoken with that property owner about the change of zoning?
I have not. I haven't received any responses.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff?
Jeff, have you spoken with any of these property owners that you're planning on changing the zoning?
Yes, I received 2 phone calls and then 1 letter. So the 1 letter in support was this business over here that's the counseling office. So he was in support of the application. He just wanted to get a little more information once he found out that it was going to be a retail store, and that his main support is as long as he prefers it to be owner occupied if they build a house on this or a residential unit on the 2nd floor. I also got a call from Texas Bank, who owns the properties up here, and they were in support of the change.
Okay,
Well,
and they're in support of changing their zoning.
Correct.
Well, and just to clarify, we're not changing anyone. The only zoning we're changing is the one property.
The comp plan, that's right.
We're changing the comp plan.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're not changing the zoning on everything.
The zoning stays. The underlying zoning remains.
That is correct. So the
Just for this one
zoning-
lot is what we're changing. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, so the one on the right-hand side, the RS1 will be rezoned to neighborhood commercial. Everything else on the left-hand side is currently neighborhood future land use and will go to neighborhood center, which will reflect the current zoning for most of these properties.
Okay, I understand. The underlying zoning for all the other tracts remains the same. It's just the future zoning that's changing.
Yes,
That's
the
right.
future land use, that's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Jeff, could you stop sharing your screen, please? There you go. Debbie, are you on the line? Can you hear us?
We can hear you, and it looks like I'm now unmuted and you can hear me.
Good.
Just a minute. And now you can see my face.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
We're good.
My husband Phil is also sitting here next to me, but so Jeff has told you what our little scheme is. We opened our store in the Village Shopping Center in August of 2019. We sell sewing machines and fabrics and quilting supplies, and have been leasing our space here in the village since last spring. Did some refurbishing and opened our doors in August. We have been very well received by the community, and we've already outgrown this space. And so we're looking to see what we can do. We have 2 more years on our lease, which we will fulfill, but we're already looking to the future and you know, how can we improve our business situation by expanding. But we love our location. We love being in this part of town. We love the access on West Beauregard, and that parking lot popped up with a for sale sign, and the light bulbs went off. And we've always kind of had kind of a funky dream of the living upstairs from your business establishment is we just think it's a great idea, and that's what we would like to do. So we'll look to sell our house in the suburbs and move in closer to town and be upstairs from the quilt shop.
Okay. Well, Debbie, thank you. Glad to hear things are going well in the village. It's a good spot.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a great location for us.
Does anyone have questions for Debbie? All right. Debbie, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to open it back up for public comment. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case? Please join us. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Do we need to take these approvals separately, or can we run them together?
I would be fine with them going together. I don't know if Brandon wants to speak, but as far as I know, we can do them together.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve both CP 20-03 and Z 20-07 as presented by the staff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right.
Looks like 6-0 again.
6-0. All right. On to rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. A request for approval of a rezoning, PD 20-01 SMC Global.
Hold on, Travis, you may have an older copy of the agenda.
Yes.
We posted a new one over before Friday. So we'll move on to special uses. The PD was actually
Withdrawn.
withdrawn.
PD's gone.
That's correct. It was withdrawn.
All right. So the next on my agenda is special uses. City Council has final authority for approval of special uses. SU 20-01, 414 Webb Street. A request for approval of a special use to allow a contractor's yard, office, and related activities in the low-rise multifamily residential zoning district located at 414 Webb Street.
Good morning again. This is Sherry Bailey. And I'm having just a little bit of problem with my slide presentation. For some reason, my internet connection today is really, really slow. There we go. As you indicated, this is a special use request that is before you. It is brought by David Mazur. He presently has his contractor's yard there, an office and a workshop area. He is asking to change it to a special use. It was, since 2018, a non-conforming use. He's asking to change it to a special use because he wants to build another workshop storage office on the site. It is, as you indicated, at 414 Webb Street, which is adjacent to residential homes and the Texas Pacific Railroad tracks right of way. It is 1.302 acres. It is in Harry Thomas's district, and it is in the Fort Concho neighborhood. This was zoned in 1954 and 1987 light manufacturing. It did not change into low-rise residential until the year 2000. That low-rise residential was never built, and the use of the property was old tire storage, trash, and weeds. When Mr. Mazur bought the property, and he came into the city planning division, asked for a change in the non-conforming use to allow his contractor storage. He went in, he cleaned the entire area, he put a privacy fence around the area, and he has been a good neighbor ever since. The present, as I indicated, future land use on the area is neighborhood, and the zoning is R1M, or RM1, I'm sorry. This is what Mr. Mazur wants to do. The existing building that he has refurbished and made an office and a storage facility is right here. His contractor storage is basically in this area. He's got a perimeter fence, privacy fence that goes around the entire area. The tracks are here, and what he would like to do is build a storage facility and workshop right here, which is closest to the tracks. You can see here, this is his present privacy fencing, which goes all around. There is landscaping out in front, and this is how he has remodeled the office and storage building. This is the residential, which is across the street, and the residential, which is kind of northwest of the existing facility. When you look at the larger area around this, there is commercial on the northwest. Across the railroad tracks is light manufacturing, a large area. This is kind of a pocket of older residential that has remained in the area. When we looked at the rationale for approval of this, the visual impact of this facility has been a positive in the neighborhood. When I was out taking pictures, I had a number of people ask me what was going to happen to the property. They were concerned that Mr. Mazur was going to leave because they like what he has done, and he is a good neighbor. When he came in and said that he wanted to add a structure, we looked at the existing non-conforming. That did not allow for that expansion. And so we went to a special use as the application in this case within that low-rise multifamily residential zoning in order to allow him this particular special use and what he wants to do. We believe it is compatible with the surrounding area and has a history of that. The proposed use will not generate any larger traffic volumes or impact the residential in any significant way any more than it already has. We believe the use will not have a negative effect on the environmental in the area. In fact, it's had a very positive effect on what he's already done. He has demonstrated a community need by the 2 years that he's been there. He's been very active. He does a number of remodeling and construction, particularly in the downtown area, and is a kind of a specialty contractor that fills a unique need in the community. And we believe the surrounding developments in the area are a mix of zoning for everything from light manufacturing to the central business district, which is just a little over 2 blocks to the west. We sent out 22 notices. We got back 2 in favor, and then this morning I discovered that we had about 244. This morning we had a person who was opposed to it. I put the star, as you can see, the red star on the map. If I'd like to summarize, because we sent it out, but I doubt if very many of you had a chance to look at it. But what their objection was to any additional noise that would be generated in the area. They're concerned about the noise. Their property backs up to his property across the alley, and there has been more noise during the day as people come and go in to pick up their whatever their workers are carrying out to work on the sites that they have. And they are concerned if he's going to have any additional hours in the morning or additional hours at the end of the week, Saturday and Sunday, because of the concern about noise. Staff is recommending approval of the special use to allow a contractor's yard, storage, office, workshop, and facilities associated with this particular use in a low-rise multifamily zoning district, and it would be subject to 4 conditions of approval. And briefly, those conditions are building permit would be required, and the site plan approval for the addition that he wants to build, that all the buffering accommodations must be maintained, and with any changes would have to come back before the city for approval, that any signage must obtain permits from the building department and must comply with current ordinances. And since this is a special use with the underlying zoning as the RM-1, those rules would apply. And then he would provide paved parking and an access drive that would connect to the street from the proposed new building as required by the city ordinance. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Bailey? All right. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Hold it up. David,
Hello?
can you hear it? Yeah,
Yes.
there it is.
Yeah, hello?
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning.
Go ahead.
Yes, morning. This is David Mazur. I would just like to say when I bought the property, just like the staff was saying, it was in real disrepair. I've spent over $100,000 of my money putting in utilities, gas, new water service, sewer, security lighting. I've got cameras on the property. I've redone all the fencing. I think I've really improved that property quite a bit. Before, all the neighbors were telling me there were people jumping the fences and stealing stuff and throwing trash all around the alleyways, and it was just an eyesore. And if I can get this zoning, then I would like to go in and build that other building, which I'm going to put another $100,000 in it, which I feel will really make that property fit into the neighborhood too. I'm real cognizant about that. You can just the stuff that I've done downtown, everything that I like to do, I want to make sure the neighbors are happy with it. I want my properties to look good. I'm planning on landscaping the front of it even more. I didn't want to do a lot of it until I knew, you know, if y'all would approve this special use zoning that I want. But I guarantee you, I've improved that property 1,000%. It was really bad. So does anybody have any questions or?
No, David, I agree 100% with what you said. And I appreciate the efforts that you've made to clean up that area. I think what you're proposing looks good to me. So does anyone have questions?
As far as traffic and all that, there's never anybody there. The guys just come pick stuff up and then they leave. That's pretty much it. There's
Okay.
never anybody there. So.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for David? David, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor say aye by show of hands. And all opposed?
That was 6-0.
6-0. All right. Conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to City Council. CU 20-06 Ford request for approval of a conditional use for a bank financial service within the heavy commercial zoning district located northwest of the intersection of Fusselman Drive and South Bryant Boulevard.
Oh, there it goes. Oh. Just 1 second, let me get to that presentation. Sorry about that. Shelley Pascal, planner. And this is a conditional use to allow bank financial service within a CH district. You might recognize this property. It was actually went through the planning process 2 months ago. This is the South Jackson and South Bryant. It's this property here. They're proposing to do a bank. The future land use is commercial. The zoning is heavy commercial. It's within District 1 Tommy Hebert, and it's in the Rio Vista neighborhood. The future land use as in the zoning maps, as you can see, it is commercial for the future land use and heavy commercial for the zoning. This is a photo of the subject property, and this is both south and north of the subject property. The proposed use as a bank should not impact the adjacent properties. In this case, we do believe that it is consistent with the zoning ordinance and will actually benefit the surrounding area. There are existing self-storage and a hotel and a landscape company in this area. In the proposed use as a bank, we do not see any anticipated impact. There appears to be no negative impact to the natural environment for this change, other than naturally during the construction of the actual bank. Staff believes that there is a continued community need for bank or financial services, and especially given that this property is South Bryant, which is a major arterial street. And the development patterns, there is a mixed use of heavier commercial and commercial uses within this area. I did send out 10 notifications, and I did receive 1 in favor and 0 in opposition. City staff, we are recommending approval of the conditional use to allow a bank of financial services within the heavy commercial zoning district, subject to 2 conditions of approval. 1 condition being that the applicant must obtain a building permit from the Permits and Inspections Division, and also prepare and submit plans for approval illustrating the sidewalk along South Bryant, which was also approved on the plat for a sidewalk in that area. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for Ms. Pascal? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment.
Is Mr. Ford on?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Ford, I'm the architect working with Central Texas Farm Credit organization. What we're going to build is probably about a 5,000 square foot, basically a loan production office. It doesn't have a drive-through, and it should positively impact the neighborhood. And that's pretty much what we're doing.
Okay. Anyone have questions for Mr. Ford? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Please come forward.
I know we have several people representing, I believe, the applicant, the property owner. So if anyone else would like to speak, you're welcome to at this time.
Okay. I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion or share their thoughts?
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the city staff. All in favor say aye by show of hands. Opposed?
6-0.
All right, CU 20-07 West Houston Hart Expressway 3100 block. A request for approval of a conditional use to allow for warehouse and freight movement in the general commercial zoning district being 0.847 acres located east of Alexander Street between West Houston Hart Expressway Frontage Road and Dallas Street.
Let me unmute myself and I will do that again. All right. So this is a conditional use 2007 West Beauregard Avenue, and this is for Angelo Christian Ministries. So some of you may be familiar with this case. This area in here has had numerous planning commission applications recently. The latest one being a subdivision plat. So all of this area north of the alley, as well as several blocks down here, were replatted. So this hasn't, I believe, has not been recorded yet, but should be any day now, and that will include the alley. So the zoning, which was done a couple of years ago, was for CG, general commercial, in this area. They want to put in a warehouse and freight movement conditional use that would allow storage of buses and other storage for the church. And so in order to do that, they need a conditional use, and that category that would allow warehousing and a bus barn essentially would be warehouse and freight movement. It's on 0.847 acres. The future land use is transitional zoning CG District 5 Lane Carter in the Bluffs neighborhood. So there's the future land use transitional in the zoning CG. This is looking north of Houston Hart and south. Currently there's buses being parked outside, so this building would be somewhere in this corner here. So it would meet all the zoning setbacks. It's just a question of getting the conditional use. This is east at the current area in question, and they have being used as a church sometimes and an office over here already. And that's the TLC Church and School as you go further east. 2 notices were mailed out because the applicant owns almost all of the properties within 200 feet, with the exception of number 2. This is Parkside Church over here. There was only one response in favor, and that was from the applicant themselves. So they basically will own, or do own, all of this area in green. So this is the concept plan that was provided by the applicant. And this will turn into a site plan at some point if this is approved. So this is the proposed warehouse building, which would be 4,700 square feet and a parking area out here. The current parking is for I believe eight parking spaces, and they only need 5, so they're good. They meet all the zoning. It's just, again, a question of this approval. One of the notes here staff is requesting is a revised plan to just have, and they would install this at the time of permitting, just extend this little private internal sidewalk here up to these parking spaces. But other than that, we didn't have any objections. Staff's recommending approval. There'd be no impacts in this particular case. Property frontage is from Alexander. It also faces Houston Hart Expressway. So the only abutting property that's not already owned by Angelo Christian is Parkside Church, and that's further down to the southeast. So we don't believe that there would be any traffic or other conflicts, given that it's on the west side of that, and the school and the church is even west of that. So there shouldn't be any overlap. Consistent with the zoning ordinance, compatible with the surrounding area. It's all churches and schools. No effects on the natural environment. We believe the community need. The building would serve the aims of the church, provide storage of vehicles and any other storage that they might have in that area. So it's going to be used for by the church and for the church in that area. No changes to development patterns. The site plan has got the access from Alexander, so that would all be done through permitting, and staff would have another chance to look at that and any final configuration requirements. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use to allow warehouse and freight movement, subject to the 6 conditions of approval in your staff report. Development shall generally conform to CG zoning. Submit a revised concept plan extending that internal sidewalk. We are asking for 7 street trees along the Houston Hart side, and that's consistent with the street trees that are in front of the church and school. So with the trees and the extension of that internal sidewalk, we believe that would be compatible with the surrounding area. Record the plat prior to permitting, and I know they're getting close. Any lighting is fully shielded downward. Any trash enclosures are screened. Any parking of the vehicles are operable. That's a standard comment, just no junk vehicles, and we believe the church wouldn't be doing that anyway. And paint the building an earth tone or match the principal buildings. So the principal buildings are like a gray or a tan color, so they don't have to have those colors, but we just want something that looks good since it will be possibly a metal building, so just have the colors match. And that's it. That concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Anyone have questions for Jeff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Okay, good morning. This is the applicant, Don Crabtree, speaking on behalf of Angelo Christian Ministries. Just wanted to confirm, Jeff, that the replat is done. I did get confirmed with Russell Gully, and so that should not be an obstacle for this project. And we appreciate all the help that you've given us thus far.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Don, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
I'm not sure who phone number 1068 is. I was hoping that it was Howard Patterson and Greg Flores.
I do believe that is 1068 is Howard Patterson.
If you guys would like to speak, you may also.
This is 1068. This is Dean Howerton. I'm with the sign. I think we have you mixed up.
Apologize.
Okay. I
Case
apologize.
down the way. Okay.
Howard, your mic may be muted. No, it doesn't show you being muted. I apologize. So was there a question for Mr. Patterson that I could relay to him?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we're here. I don't know if y'all can hear us.
Okay, yeah, that's Greg Flores. That's Greg Flores.
Yeah, I'm Greg Flores, and Howard is online with me also, but right now we don't have any questions at this time, so thank you.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, we're going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that a second from somebody?
No, I seconded it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
6-0 again.
6-0.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. All right, next case is CU 20-08, 212 North Magdalen Street. Request for approval of a conditional use for a short-term rental within the existing single-family dwelling in the low-rise multifamily zoning district located at 212 Magdalen Street.
All right, this Shelley Pascal, city planner. This is a proposal of a conditional use for a short-term rental. This property was actually approved in April 2019 for a short-term rental. However, since it didn't come back within the first year for renewal, this is considered a new application, but this was already approved April 2019. The property is located at 212 North Magdalen, and the future land use is downtown. And the zoning is RM1, District 3, Harry Thomas, and the neighborhood is also in downtown. Here's a couple of maps showing that the downtown it is zoned RM1, low-rise multifamily. Here's a photograph of the subject property, and the other photograph is looking directly across from the subject property. And this is both north and south of the subject property. City staff, we recommend approval. Short-term rental at this location appears to be compatible with the surrounding area. It is in an area of transition from both the hospital to the south and the high school to the north. And this property is zoned RM1 and allows a short-term rental with the approval of a conditional use. And it already has an existing driveway that will function as a parking area for the requirements for a short-term rental. It does maintain its residential appearance and character, and planning staff does not believe that there's any adverse effects on the natural environment. The staff believes that there is a community need for short-term rentals, especially in this area, given the location close to Shannon Medical Center. And the existing short-term rental is not anticipated to any adverse effects on the existing development patterns. I did send out 8 notifications. I did not receive any in favor nor in opposition. City staff, we are recommending approval of a conditional use to allow a short-term rental in the low-rise multifamily district, subject to 7 conditions of approval. They must maintain their 2 off-street parking spaces. They also must register with the state of Texas and the city of San Angelo for the purpose of hotel occupancy tax. The exterior of the home, there should not be any evidence of a short-term rental. The owner shall obtain a certificate of occupancy from the Permits and Inspections Division. They also must obtain and comply with an annual fire safety inspection from the City Fire Marshal's Office. The owner shall maintain a short-term rental operations consistent with our ordinance, and no commercial outdoor storage shall be allowed on the premises. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Pascal? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
I have a question.
Oh,
real
okay.
quick. During the time that they were out of compliance, did they operate as a short-term rental?
I do believe so. And I did forget to mention, I did notify both PD and our code enforcement offices to see if they had any violations or reports to the property within the last year, and they have not. They just missed the application deadline of renewing it by a month.
Well, and I was
Okay.
going to say, we did not have an April meeting, so I can't speak to the applicant. I don't know if she's here, but there may have been an intent to apply, but once the meeting was canceled, I'm not sure. So we're only about a month out. So we're very close to what the renewal would have been.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Then open it up for public comment.
Ray, I am not seeing the applicant on the meeting.
There is no one in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
I move that we accept as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the city staff. All in favor say aye or show your hand. Opposed?
6-0.
All right, sign variance. Planning Commission has final authority for approval of sign variances. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. SV 20-01 North Bryant Boulevard, 3100 block, a request for approval of sign variances for a freestanding on-site sign. 1, a sign area of 707 square feet in lieu of the maximum 250 square feet. And 2, a sign height of 88 feet in lieu of the maximum 50 feet. And a request for approval of a sign variance to allow a total of 9 freestanding on-site signs in lieu of the maximum 5 signs for a lot with a primary frontage exceeding 700 feet in the general commercial, heavy commercial zoning district, being 8.567 acres located at the southwest corner of North Bryant Boulevard and West 33rd Street.
All right, let's try that one more time. All right, Jeff Fisher again, Principal Planner. So this is a sign variance. The applicants are representing the owner of the property. They're looking at doing a truck stop that's going to include a convenience store, gas station, and truck facilities in there. So the subdivision plat was approved and is waiting recordation. This had all come before you a little bit earlier this year under Kent Distributors. And so this is going to be for that use now for the truck stop. A lot of truck stops are located on interstates and so require higher signage. The City of San Angelo and City Council had mandated in our sign ordinance very standards to protect the viewpoints and to avoid sign clutter in our city, and so that 50-foot maximum is really the maximum, unless they can prove a special circumstance or a hardship. So again, because of the type of use it is, the applicant wanted a taller sign, and with that comes the area as well. So the first 2 variances are to allow the taller sign of 88 feet and a sign area of 707 square feet. The maximum sign area is 250 and the height of 50. And the third variance, they have a lot of directional signs. There's entrances, future entrances for this truck stop off of Riverside Golf Club, off of 33rd and off of Bryant. And so with a lot of the directional signs, they're slightly larger than what they're allowed. And they also have advertising of the truck stop on them. And so those extra signs, a total of 9, are counted as freestanding signs. If they were to remove the advertising or reduce the sign area to 8 square feet, they would have not required the third variance. But So this is what we're proposing today. It's in District 2, Tom Thompson in the Riverside neighborhood. The future land use is commercial and the zoning is CGCH. So I just want to show you some video footage. Staff is recommending denial of the request as proposed. I had talked to the applicant last week about some possible alternatives, which we'll go over in a minute. But I just wanted to show you, we did take some video footage coming along about 20 seconds going southbound on Bryan and then 20 seconds going northbound. So if this is the southbound view, the use would be on this side of the road, and on the northbound view past Mueller, it will be on this side. So imagine a sign 88 feet kind of about here, and then on this side about here. So this is the southbound view. So as you can come along, you can see the topography is relatively flat. So we believe that it may not be perfectly visible, but we believe that we could see a sign. So there's, unfortunately, it doesn't go as far as a hardship. It may be an inconvenience, certainly if you're driving along, and this is going northbound, but we still believe the sign is visible. And we had researched, there are 8 other signs from the city limits down to about 23rd Street that we looked at, including some off-site billboards and some other on-site freestanding signs. Of those signs, all of them complied with the sign ordinance, with one exception. That was the shell sign, and the reason was the shell sign was a non-conforming sign that had been slightly damaged, and so they had repaired that. So they were either legal non-conforming and were done before the sign ordinance, or they had all complied with the sign ordinance. So this is looking south and north on Bryant and west. This is on Riverside, on the Riverside side. So those are some of those other signs. So the shell sign's the only one that was slightly taller, and again, that was that received an approval because it was an existing sign. They weren't changing the structure. So this is the concept plan of the sign. So the first 2 variances are to allow this large sign here. That's just number 1. There's a couple other freestanding signs for the development, which is 2 and 5. All of these other signs are directional signs, and I'll just go over these very briefly. This is sign number 1. So this would be the restaurant, Huddle House, the Kent Quick Travel Center, and then the fuel pricer sign, all on that sign. So if you take them all together, you're getting about 707 square feet, 88 feet tall. These are some of the other signs. So if they had removed on the additional 6 signs, if they took out the Kent Quick logo and reduced this from 12 square feet around the signboard to 8, they would not need that 3rd variance. They would all be considered directional signs only, and directional signs are exempt. They don't need permits, and they're not considered part of that total of 5 freestanding signs. So we looked at the criteria for a sign variance. Is there a practical difficulty or hardship? There's definitely an inconvenience. We understand that they're a truck stop and that they want the taller sign, but we don't believe it goes as far as the hardship based on the videos we presented. So the topography is relatively flat, as confirmed by the footage. There will be a new traffic light installed on Bryant and 33rd. That'll help reduce speeds as well. So a lot of cars will get caught in that light and stop, and so we'll be able to see that sign a little bit better. And again, sign variance number 3, if they had taken the advertising off and reduced the signage to 8 square feet, they wouldn't need the extra variances. We don't believe there's a special circumstance or conditions for the same reason we talked about in terms of the hardship. Now, one of the other options is that whole area to the west and north is light manufacturing, and then on the other side is CG. So if they were to rent space and do a billboard sign, they could actually put some of that signage on a billboard sign. They would be allowed as of right in the ML zoning up to 700 square feet. Well, the sign's 707, so they could that would be one option for them. Or they could also put a sign outside the city limits. They're just about 2 miles to the north, and then they would be out of the city limits. So those are some other options. The third option is they could just take some of those off-site signs and scale them down to 8 square feet, take off the advertising. Then they would only have a total of 3 freestanding signs that can have up to 5. So they could split up that signage into 2 smaller signs. Now, staff's ideally, we don't really want to have more signs there because that's more clutter, but they would be in their rights under the sign ordinance to get 5 freestanding signs there and just, you know, cut up the signage and just say 250, 250, and 250 and not do one with 700. So I think the issue here is just the sheer size of it. We certainly want to work with the applicant and give them different options, but the height as proposed is 76% taller, 282% greater than what's allowed in the sign ordinance. We just believe it's too large compared to what the ordinance would allow. As mentioned, we looked at some of the other options for them, and we believe it just departs too much from the intent of the sign ordinance by council. So we are recommending denial of the sign variance to allow that maximum sign of 707, sign height of 88 feet, and also to deny the number of freestanding signs from 5 up to 9. This concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Anyone have questions for Mr. Fisher? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning. This is Chris Simonic. I'm the architect for Kent Companies. You know, we're looking for this taller sign. It's a typical sign that they would put at one of their travel centers. And the main reason, you know, you do have visibility for obviously bringing customers in, but with having truck traffic and 18-wheelers coming in, we want to give them the best opportunity to jockey their trucks around and get it in position so they know what's coming up, and less headache in the traffic. So that's the main reason for the tall sign. The other signs, you know, directional signs, help with trying to get the traffic in and out with autos and trucks, and keep everybody safe. And there's a couple of signs that are back on the golf course road that we are going to be utilizing, but that road, we're improving that road. I think that road has been abandoned, and Kent's going to be paying for an update of that road, and they're also paying to install this stoplight on Highway 87. So we're kind of looking for some concessions there in good faith for improving all this stuff.
The light and the roadway improvement to Riverside Golf Club Road were conditions of the plat approval. So those two things were already set in motion with the plat, just so that the commission is aware.
Okay. Anyone have questions for Chris? All right, thank you, Chris. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Please come forward. All right, I'm going to close public comment. I'm familiar with this location. I drive by it all the time. I think it's a really good location for a truck stop. It's a high visibility tract of land on the edge of town. I don't think that the signage that they're proposing is necessary for folks going up and down Bryant to see it. It's in a turn coming into town. So speed limit's already reduced to 55. Improvements are, it's right on the edge of town in terms of improvements on that side of the street. So I personally don't see any hardship or need for the signage that they've proposed. And I think that our ordinance on signage is more than adequate for this location, especially given its visibility. So those are my thoughts. Anyone else want to share their thoughts or make a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to deny as proposed by the staff. All in favor say aye, or show of hands. And opposed to the denial?
So that count was 5-1.
5-1. Okay. All right. Right-of-way amendment. City Council has final authority for approval of right-of-way abandonments. Alley right-of-way abandonment, 1600 block of Houston Hart Expressway. Request to approve the abandonment of approximately 2,200 square feet, 17 feet by 130, of an unpaved north-south alley within Block 2 of the Kinley Addition, located north of Ellis Street, south of Houston Hart Expressway, frontage approximately 200 feet east of North Bell Street.
Kelly Pascal, planner. This is a proposed abandonment of an alley, and just to place you, this is Houston Hart and Bell Street. And as you can see, the building is currently constructed and straddles the proposed alley to be abandoned, which is the red area here. And this property is located, or this building is located at 704 North Bell Street. The future land use is commercial. The zoning is general commercial / heavy commercial, and also heavy commercial on this property. It's within District 3, Harry Thomas. It's in the Pauline neighborhood. As I stated, both the future land use and commercial and zoning map here is stating it's in commercial, and as you can see, it's both heavy commercial / general commercial and general commercial. This is a photograph of the subject property, and I did get both north and south, and if you can imagine, there's an alley running through that middle of that building. I did send out 2 notifications. I did not receive either in favor nor opposition. We did circulate this abandonment request, and we did not receive any responses in favor nor opposition from any private or public utility company. Planning staff, we do not believe that this portion provides any public benefit, especially since there's already a building going through it. And there's no evidence that this alley has ever been used and for traffic pattern, for any kind of traffic. There are no utilities in the alley. There does not appear to be any negative impact to the surrounding properties, more so actually benefit the surrounding building that's straddling it. And city staff, we are recommending approval of this approximate 2,200 square foot unpaved northwest alley within Block 2 of the Kinley Addition, subject to 2 conditions approval. The conditions is to submit a replat absorbing the subject property into the adjacent lots, and submit payment for a formulated schedule outlined in the assessment of the property. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Pascal? All right, thank you. We're going to open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case, please join us. Say your name.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ray Ojeski, here on behalf of the applicant in this case. As you have seen, the alley is unused, it is unpaved. My client was not the owner of the property at the time that this building was built, so I don't think anybody really knows exactly how it got built over this alleyway, but nonetheless, they are looking to expand the property. The conditions that are set by the city on the approval of this abandonment are acceptable, and we would ask for your consent here today, and happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Ojeski? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Please come forward. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
I move to accept as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the city staff. All in favor say aye, or show of hands. And opposed?
6-0.
6-0. Okay. Last case. Alley right-of-way abandonment, Goodfellow Avenue, 0 to 20 block. A request to approve the abandonment of approximately 1,900 square feet, 15 feet by 130, of an unpaved east-west alley within Block 4 of the Goodfellow addition located north of the intersection of Paint Rock Road and Goodfellow Avenue.
Okay, this proposed alley is currently an open right-of-way. Just to place you, this is Paint Rock Road and Goodfellow Avenue, and the proposed alley is here. It's just vacant. The applicant has actually built a house since this area was taken, and he has a home here. And just a notation, this is all city property right here. And when it was platted in the 40s, it was actually proposed to be a park, and since it was never utilized as a park, and the city is not proposing to use it as a park in the future. The future land use is neighborhood. It is zoned RS1. It's within District 4 Lucy Gonzalez, and it's in the Bel Air neighborhood. It is zoned RS1, and it is single family residential, and it's called for neighborhood. This is the home I was speaking of that was built since the aerial photo was taken. The proposed alley is just right here. I did send out 2 notifications, both to the applicant and to the real estate division within the city. I did not receive any in favor nor opposition. We did also send out to private and public utilities. There was no response in that either. This right-of-way was platted within the 1940s and is currently vacant. And as I stated, the city owns the property to the south. And the applicant is in negotiations with the city to acquire the property just south of him. There is evidence that this alley has never been used and has been vacant since the 1940s. There is no existing utilities within this alley. It does not appear to have any negative impact. And this will allow the space to be utilized by the adjoining property owner. City staff, we all recommended approval of the proposed abandonment of approximately 1,950 square feet of unpaved east to west alley within Block 4 of the Goodfellow addition, subject to 2 conditions of approval. Same 2 conditions is submit a replat and also submit a payment for the assessed formula.
I think one other thing to show, Shelley, is go back to the aerial. Even though this will technically close the exit portion of the alley that was dedicated, the alley has never used it, so they have actually just gone straight. When Paint Rock Road was constructed, they actually have a curb cut here to allow exit, so they will still exit the alley through city-owned property, and we are working with our real estate division to kind of confirm that and finalize that. That way it'll always be open, but this will not close the exit to the alley. It will close the portion that was never utilized.
Okay. So you want to have questions for Ms. Pascal?
I have one question. So what is the current dimensions of that alleyway?
15 by
130.
So it usually, I thought it was half of it goes to one owner and half goes to another. So that half of that would go to the city.
Right. And well, the applicant in works with the city to purchase the southern portion of that property also. So it would technically half would go to him and half would go to the city. And then I'm not real sure how the real estate division is going to work that, if they're going to, because he's already in works of trying to get that most southern portion between him and Paint Rock Road.
Okay.
So it's a full abandonment of the right of way.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Open it up for public comment.
They are currently having issues with their audio, so I'm not sure if they can get it fixed in just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Fuentes?
Yes, good morning.
There he is.
Morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
You hear us?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we just applying for the. Let me get my TV. Okay, we're just applying for to extend the property on the alley, and I was doing a investigation about since when the plat was doing on the 1940s, so it never been used as a alley. That piece of property, they're always been using the back part. They use it like as a straight all the way down to Paint Rock. So we're thinking about it's not being affecting nobody like all over around because we're the first house on the block. And like I said, it's just like to be extend our yard to the side to get more space for our family, like family uses. And about the thing, the question the Ms. Terry has about what the city says about the part on the alley. We talked with it's an old lady over there they are in charge of it's about the properties of the city, and she said the city don't want the piece of the alley, so they kind of donated to us. So they say we can apply for the full abandoned alley portion of property because they say they don't need it. And we're talking about to start a process to rent the other part of the corner of the lot, and we're gonna starting with the rent by the year, and then after that we're gonna discuss and make another application to buy the rest of the lot. So that's what's going on right now with that piece of land over there.
Okay. Anyone have questions for Mr. Fuentes? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor say aye or show hands. Opposed?
I'm sorry, Ryan, can you verify opposition or I think your screen kind of froze there for a second. Are you for or against? For?
I'm in favor.
Okay, I'm sorry. So that would be 6-0.
6-0. Okay. Director's report.
Yeah, I just really had one thing to mention. At this point, we don't know what's going to happen with the June meeting. We'll keep you advised as we get more information. Currently, the governor's order would have us have a Zoom meeting just like this one, but that could change. And so, again, we'll let you know as it gets closer to the meeting. But at this point, we don't know if we'll be having an in-person meeting or continue to do the remote meeting.
Okay. Future meeting agenda and announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, June 15th, 2020. An adjournment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Show of hands. Opposed?
6-0.
All right.